thinking that they're mobilizing, you know, looking around the gym, acting like it's doing something. But it ain't, and this is why.
What's up, YouTube? I'm Ryan, and today we're gonna start with the story. There's gonna be some good foreshadowing, some ankle fractures, chacos, and of course some fitness. So let's get right into it. All right, so I'll try to keep this succinct. But basically, my friends and I last summer did a high alpine lake hike near Boulder, Colorado. Nice early in the morning, right? Went up, tried to get some fishing. But on the way up there, me and my buddy were talking, and he was saying, oh man, you know, we're getting older. These ankles just aren't holding up like they used to. So I specifically mentioned, dude, what we do in my gym is we get strong ankles, knees, all the joints. We're making them stronger. When you do compound lifts, when you lift heavy, you are strengthening all these sort of joints. Okay, so he's complaining about that, but we make it up and down fine that day. Now, fast forward a week, him and I, and then our other buddy, go to another high alpine lake, do some fishing, same type of thing. So we're going up, we have hiking boots on, right? It's pretty cold in the morning. We get to the top, that's when we put on the chacos, because that's just the vibe, right? You're doing some fly fishing, gotta have the chacos. But at the top, as we're about to go back down, my buddy's like, yo, should we wear our chacos down? And I've done that plenty of times. I've never even questioned it. It's like, yeah, of course, I already have them on. They're wet. And honestly, one of the main things is I was not trying to put my sock on my wet foot. You know, similar to like putting on a latex glove on a wet hand, not a good time. So we wore the chacos down. So we're probably 3/4 of the way down, and he slipped on a rock and ended up basically, this is his foot in here, twisting it, and this strap was so tight, it ended up breaking his foot. So could you blame the chacos? Sure. Should we have been hiking from a high alpine lake down a mountain in sandals? No, definitely not. And so where this video ties in is through that process. So he ended up breaking his foot. And then obviously in that, you're immobilized, you have a cast. So you're gonna lose mobility, you're gonna lose flexibility, obviously muscle tone, all the things. So coming back from that rehab, we had to look at certain things because he did want to start lifting, and we did start lifting, which is awesome. But we had to do certain things to get his ankle back to the mobilization that he even had before, and we want to try to make it even better. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna look at the mobilization techniques, whether or not you even need them. So we'll do a quick test, retest type of scenario, and we'll look at some of the anatomy. All right, first things first, we're gonna go through some general anatomy. When you're feeling that block in the front of your ankle, or it just feels like you don't have enough ankle mobility when you're doing squats or something like that, usually it's one or two things. And to understand those things, we're gonna go through two of the simple movements of the ankle joint. So if I have my foot neutral like this, and then I lift my toes towards my knee, that's what they call dorsiflexion. And then the opposite of that would be putting my toes down like a calf raise, that's plantar flexion. And I'll try to show you the muscles that are responsible for each on myself. So give me a second, gotta go Capri Life real quick. So I'm gonna pull the pant leg up, and then if I flex my calf, so if you look at these two main heads here, that's gonna be your gastrocnemius, or gastroc for short. And then if you kind of come to the side, you can see this one that's just a little bit deep of the gastroc. That's actually gonna be your soleus. So to keep it simple, we'll say those are your two plantar flexors. So the ones that are gonna point your toes down. Now, if we come to the front, there's actually a big muscle. It's probably gonna be kind of hard to see, but it's called the tibialis anterior. And you could probably feel it on yourself if you lift your toes and just feel along your shin bone. And since we're keeping it simple, we're gonna call the tibialis anterior the one that's gonna dorsiflex or bring the toes up towards the knee. Now with those two movements in mind, and then a couple muscles that are responsible for those actions, we can now think about that if your plantar flexors, right, are too tight, then it's not gonna allow you to get enough dorsiflexion. So that'd be cause number one of that bony block feeling, or just feeling like you can't get into a deep enough squat because of your ankles. And if that's you, you're in luck, because that's a really easy fix. Really all you gotta do is stretch the plantar flexors. So you could do the classic, right, one of these, or you could also put your toes up against something like a wall and then lean into it over it. Either of those stretches are gonna hit all the muscles in the back of your calf that are responsible for plantar flexion, therefore giving you more dorsiflexion because they won't be as tight. And what I would do is normally hold it anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. And I wouldn't do these type of static stretches before a workout. I look to do them completely separate from your workout or after the workout. But I will show you, after we go through the test of if you even need ankle mobility, two movements that I do every day before I squat. All right, so now for the most important part. What you're gonna wanna do is find a pole or a wall or anything solid really. I use a fist, you could do about 5 inches. Put your fist up against the wall. So that's the space between your toe and the wall. And then what you're trying to do is touch your knee to that wall without your heel lifting up. So it should look something like this.
Knees touching, heels completely flat on the ground. So that would be a pass. It's important to do it both sides, obviously. So I'll do the same thing on my left foot over here. And that one's gonna pass as well. So what a failed test would look like is as you're going towards the wall with your knee, if your knee can't touch without your heel lifting up. So it looks something like this. So what that's gonna indicate is that you probably need to try the banded mobilization. But it's important to test first and then retest after to see if it's actually having the effect that you want. Now, if this is your first time doing this test and an ankle banded mobilization, don't expect to all of a sudden be able to just pass, but you should be getting closer each time you do the banded mobilization. So now I'll show you the two things that I always do in my dynamic warm-up, especially on a squat day. So welcome to move number one. I pretty much do this every single leg day, but especially if I'm doing any sort of squat variation. So what I'm just holding a 25 here, and really what I'm trying to do is just kind of use my elbow to push my knee over my toes. And I usually try to stay pretty stacked, but you can flirt with going a little in, a little out. Kind of depends on how your ankles feel. But you can see I'm sitting in a pretty deep squat, and I'm really just doing 2 to 3 second pulses per side. So it's not a static stretch, it's definitely more of a dynamic stretch. And so I maybe do 10 per side. So I usually do that one first, just because that's kind of the flow that I've developed over the years. I don't think it really matters, but this is gonna be the banded mobilization. First, I'm gonna show you how not to do it. And now that we understand the anatomy, I'll explain why this doesn't work. So you're gonna need a pretty thick band. Honestly, anything thinner than this is really not gonna have enough magnitude to pull what we need to pull for a banded mobilization. So I'm gonna tighten it down as low as it can go to a rack or a rig. And then this is what you see all the time. And honestly, it's having the exact opposite effect of what you want. So usually, most of the time you won't even see any elevation. And people just kind of put it nice and low right above their shoe. And they'll sit here for a while doing something like this. Thinking that they're mobilizing, looking around the gym, acting like it's doing something. But it ain't. And this is why. So basically, if you have your tibia or shin bone here, and this is your ankle, and it's sitting on top of each other, so dorsiflexion will look something like this. And when you're getting that bony block, it's basically your talus, which your tibia sits on top of, and they try to articulate, but your talus is too far forward. And so what happens is they kind of butt into each other like this. And so if you have the band high and it's up on top of your shin bone here, you're basically pulling this part back more, which you're creating more of a bony block because now this is sitting further back on your talus and it's not able to articulate. And when it's not able to articulate, you're not getting any dorsiflexion, right? And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So step number one, gotta let the dogs breathe. Gotta take off the shoes. And that's what's beautiful about this. It's a warm up. So even if you have stinky feet, ain't no one gonna smell it. So with the shoe off and adding some elevation, what I do is I get that band nice and low. You can see it's literally below the two very superficial ankle bones that everyone can touch. And then you have it pulling down at an angle, right? So it's down more on this part of your ankle. And now what we're trying to do is pull this back so that your tibia can translate more like this. And then same kind of thing. Just lean, pulse in and out, maybe 2 to 3 seconds per. And I'll do usually about 10 pulses per foot and then switch. And then after we do our banded ankle mobilization, come back to the wall, put your fist there, and hopefully you're passing. All right, that's all there is to it. Hopefully I made that as easy as doing crisscross applesauce as an adult. But that's actually not easy. So hopefully I made it easier than that. But if you like these type of simple videos, simple fixes for sometimes complex problems, then you should like and subscribe because I guarantee you I've already done a video or will do a video in the future that's gonna help you because I'm gonna talk all things fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset. So buckle up because it's gonna be one heck of a ride. I'll see you next time.